We're graced by the presence of Ollie. Let's go ahead and bring him on.
Hi Ethan, how's it going?
Hello, Ollie. Nice to
I like your
meet you and
outfit.
sit and chat with you.
Nice to see you. I like your outfit. Very French with the hat.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think you look wonderful too. We're kind of doing the same thing with our hats, aren't we?
Okay, I know a little bit about this context, okay? As I understand it, Ethan Klein does an amazing job of baiting him into a false sense of security. So, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I know that, but this is one of the reasons why sometimes people get mad at me for being nice when I'm talking to miserable, disgusting worms of people. And that's because, they may be grifters, but they're still humans. And for that reason, they will get more defensive if you start on the attack, and they will get more relaxed if you don't. It's very smart to lay off it.
Anymore. They don't have, having to wait several years to transition. Now it's a very fast track process, and that's the real issue because
This is a lie. If this was true, and conservatives were acting in good faith, the laws they would be passing would say that in order to get any kind of gender-affirming medical care as a youth, you need to have at least 1 year or so, or 2 or whatever, of psychiatric consultation, therapy, whatever. That is not what they're saying. That's not what they want. And the reason for that is, of course, because if that was the requirement, if that was the prerequisite, wouldn't change anything. Because in reality, we don't have an epidemic of 13-year-olds getting one doctor's visit and then being prescribed estrogen or whatever. That's not actually what's happening. I don't even think I would mind those laws that much, to be honest. I really hate it when politics gets involved in medicine and science in this way. However, if we had to accept some kind of compromise in an imperfect world, the idea that trans youth should have some level of mandated medical gatekeeping, that's not the worst law to have, Yeah, you go 14 to 16, you talk it out, then you see what you can do from there. 12 to 14, whatever. It's not perfect. There will always be people who these restrictions hurt, but this would be a far more acceptable restriction than what they're actually trying to do, which is ban all trans healthcare, arrest parents of trans children, kidnap trans... They're like, well, we're very concerned about this one specific thing. And then it's like, yeah, okay, so here's my law where we get to shoot trans people on sight,
There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism. They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with depression.
Nope. What if there's something underlying that makes it more likely that autistic people are trans or trans people are autistic? Why would it be a misdiagnosis? This is a very common lie they push, by the way. So are trans girls autistic? Yeah, basically all of them. But that doesn't mean that their autism is being misdiagnosed as being trans. Do people think that there's any overlap in symptoms between being autistic and being trans? I'm autistic. I just don't like loud noises, big crowds, and I tend to be very detail-oriented, along with a couple other things. Being a girl is being a girl. That's a whole different... It's like, oh, you think you're a girl, you really just have autism. What the fuck does that mean? Well, it's like, oh, yeah, I like Legos. I thought that was me being a girl, but I guess it's the autism. Oh, yeah, easy mistake. Classic. What it really is, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but here, I'll rep my credit. It's actual ableism. It's the idea that autistic people are fundamentally incapable of making decisions about their own body or autonomy. So if you have autism, it means that every other decision about yourself is suspect, because it could just be you're too retarded to understand what's going on. You're just dumb and easily manipulated. Yeah, no. I don't even think autistic people are easily manipulated. If anything, in my experience, they tend to be really stubborn, headstrong, and unwilling to go along with social convention. In my experience, allistic people are way more easy to peer pressure because they're much more concerned with group dynamics and social approval. It's it doesn't have to make sense. It's all bullshit anyway.
We have to look at these gender clinics. There's a whole Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that
they did not.
This is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that it's perfect.
Did you say
fine.
Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being a sex criminal and scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right?
He's not part of that organization now. So the organization.
Fuck, Ethan. It's so good.
Gays Against Groomers. So who's...
Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organization of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans
Nope.
people as well. Basically, this organization is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender clinics, calling out the harms of doing this to kids. Because look,
Where's
we
the
get that
grooming
some
come
kids.
in though? That's the part that I find like really inflammatory because grooming implies that trans people or trans activists, and it's what you said here in this tweet, that they're pedophiles, that they're sexualizing kids. So where's that evidence come from? Because it's one thing to say we're against gender affirming care for minors, but it's a whole different thing to say, they're grooming.
Well, that word is
Excellent. Keep on focus. Don't let Ollie pretend this is some neutral debate about medical practice. Very good.
So go back to your claim about grooming. So you brought up the drag show for kids. Is there any other examples, or are we just talking about drag shows? Because I have to assume that the drag shows, even if it's as widespread as Project Veritas claims, which heaven knows how credible they are, there's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages. And, if you want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things. He's doing imitating blowjobs. He has,
Oh, yeah, this first of all, Sam Smith Lamau. Second of all, oh, yeah, this very new queer movement of musicians and rock stars doing sexual stuff on stage. This thing the transgenders invented where rock stars do sexual stuff. This is this is anti-Elvis propaganda. There were literally conservatives who wanted to ban Elvis from like local shows because they didn't want their women seeing his like hip gyrations on stage. That was a real thing. David Bowie was doing it in the 70s. It's the exact, like all the time, the same thing happens over and over. You know what hair metal bands were up to? Christ alive.
It's not just about drag queens, it's about protecting kids in general. So even if it's Cardi B, I don't think kids should be at a Cardi B concert if
David
she's twerking or doing like something very, very sexual. I think it's just about protecting
grooming.
kids.
I mean,
Wait, kids do go to Cardi B concerts though. What? So Ollie's admitting that his definition of like grooming includes just pop stars existing. Like, so okay, yeah. The quest for the median voter.
since you bring it up, I have seen something troubling from a trans person that I thought was kind of gross. They were selling, it was like a kid's T-shirt with a trans person on it, and then they had like kids' toys with trans people on it, and it was kind of gross and groomy. Have you seen anything like that before?
I've seen T-shirts that the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota wore, protect trans kids with a knife on it. Things like that. I've seen.
So actually, you know what's interesting, Ollie? If you go to your website right now, your merch website, I was actually talking about your merch. You are actually selling kids' lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman, and you're selling
No,
it.
that's not a trans woman.
Oh,
That's
it's
not
not.
a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
I had a feeling you would say that.
There is no universe in which this does not meet the definition that he's trying to construct. Just a cute little Japanese cartoon of me. Why are the O's buttholes? This is okay. I'm not gonna lie. If I saw this on like a kid's backpack, I would unironically think this is inappropriate. The way in which this is depicted just comes across as deeply sexual to me. It's like in a Hagao face with gross fucking anime eyes with these like fleshy butthole letters. Like it's very off-putting in a way that I would say is deliberate if I was dealing with like any other person, and in this case is probably just his last delusional fantasy of being a K-pop star, I guess, kind of like put to pen.
Because here it is, you wearing that design, and it's pretty obvious to tell that this is depicting you. This is from just like a month ago, and this is when you were trans. Yeah. So do you think it's appropriate to sell this to kids?
Well, it's a lunchbox with a picture of a K-pop cartoon.
Well, it's you as a trans. It's you as a trans woman.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not.
But
that's not inappropriate.
Right. But at the time, you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time, I was a trans woman.
Oh, did he actually do trans woman, not trans guy? Whatever. It doesn't matter. His brain's soup either way. So then how is he wriggling his way out of this? What?
There's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you as a trans woman.
That I was a trans woman at the time. That picture does not depict me as a trans woman. It depicts me as a K-pop star. But
I find that interesting that you're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about groomers and stuff. Because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy. And even if you go, and this is all. Well, hold on, Ollie. Hold on one sec.
Not to mention, it's like lolicon proportions, right? I mean, the head is the size of the entire torso. Again, I would just say this is creepy if an average person came out with this, but in the context of Ollie saying it's grooming for Sam Smith to exist, like there's no fucking shot this doesn't get flagged, okay? Any fair system, it's like, oh, yeah, you trans people are grooming because Cardi B exists, but also my Ahegao trans woman Korean pop star butthole lettering shirt that I sell to children, that's just some fucking merch, baby.
Let's at least be consistent. If we're going to accuse people of grooming kids, and which you have made a short-lived but somewhat profitable career of doing, then I think we need to, we need to get on top of this. I just don't think it's appropriate to be selling
Well,
lunch boxes with a trans woman
if that
on it.
lunchbox, Ethan, if that lunchbox had something inappropriate or sexual, that would be wrong. But this is an innocent cartoon of me doing a K-pop pose. There's nothing wrong with that particular picture. If it was inappropriate or in a sexual way, that would be completely wrong. And of course, I would never sell that. But that's an innocent drawing of a cartoon, Ethan.
Let's say a kid's at a drag queen show. That's grooming. And let's say they are selling lunch boxes to the kids with a picture of a drag queen on it, doing a cute pose or whatever, right? Not sexual, but they're in drag. Do you think it's appropriate for a kid to carry that lunchbox?
Well, I think it's appropriate if the kid's at a drag show that's inappropriate, because some drag shows are generally not inappropriate, but
Okay,
a lot
so
of them are becoming
okay, that's
sexualized.
interesting. So some drag shows are appropriate and some aren't.
Correct. It's about, if you're going to do anything in front of kids, it should be PC. It should not have anything sexual. But sadly, a lot of these shows are doing sexual things, so kids should not be there.
This was incredibly well handled by Ethan. Because by forcing Ollie to acknowledge nuance, you can start breaking this down. And the way that Ethan did that was by forcing Ollie to directly defend himself with the merch, with the image on the merch. Because he can't, like, Ollie can't just go, oh yeah, that's grooming merch. Obviously, that would be insane. Honestly, that'd be a pretty impressive bullet to bite. If Ethan showed it and Ollie was like, wow, you're right, that is grooming, I'll take those down immediately. Like, that'd be pretty impressive. but that didn't happen, of course, because that's not going to happen. And now, like, the wedge has been driven, and now you can start, like, introducing more caveats that make the original sensationalist claims look increasingly stupid.
If the merch is there and it's a show that's sexual, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Okay, this is interesting. So you're saying it is okay for kids to go to drag shows?
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they should in
Hold
general,
on,
but I'm just saying,
if they're not sexual, and I would assume it's not because it's for kids, right? I mean, if they're doing sexual stuff, I would consider that, obviously, everyone would consider that inappropriate. But I believe you've just said drag shows are safe for kids. In fact, you would even be okay. Well, hold on. You even said you'd be okay with them carrying a drag show lunchbox.
No, look, I just don't think kids should be anywhere that is putting ideas into their head. If a show is innocent,
Oh, ideas into their head. See, notice what Ollie just did there? He realized that he'd overstepped. And now he's saying, again, his actual position, which is that drag itself is a degenerate influence. Now, he's a grifter. I don't think he believes any of this shit, really. He follows the pointers he's given. Or maybe he's like a dog and mentally just not there and he's just told what to believe. But he's overstepped it. He's been too permissive now. So he has to step back and reassert the actual claim here. But now this is something that'll implicate his lunchbox again. Because that's literally a lunchbox of a trans woman right there. So, like, oh, you're going to give that to kids and be like, oh, put ideas in their head?
that's obviously better than it being a sexual show. But I still don't think kids should be exposed to gender ideology.
So, but what about this lunchbox you're selling to kids?
That has nothing to do with any kind of ideology. It's a K-pop picture. So
yeah, but you're in drag in the picture. You're trans.
I'm not in drag.
Well, you're trans. Sorry, yeah, you're right. You're not in drag. I misspoke. You're trans. You're a woman. You're expressing yourself as a woman on the box.
It's just a cartoon, Ethan. I don't know why you keep going on about it's a cartoon.
It's just a cartoon. I mean, I feel like you're trying to downplay the significance of this, Ollie. I'm just afraid that some of the people that you associate with might consider this grooming by your own standard. I'm just looking out for you and your reputation.
It's just silly, Ethan. It's an innocent cartoon. If it was an inappropriate picture, that would be wrong.
Okay. What do you make of this picture? Are these kids in danger? Your thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen the video of that particular show, and it depends what book they're reading. If the drag queen is teaching them about gender ideology. It appears to be depicting
some fish, a couple of fish.
Oh, that's the fish book. I've read that. I forget what it's called. But yeah, that's the fucking fish book with like the scales. The rainbow fish. Yeah. Good book.
Ocean, it seems like.
That's the rainbow fish.
The rainbow fish. It seems to be the rainbow fish, Ollie.
Well, I think a lot of these books are pushing even subtle messages on gender ideology, trying to tell kids you should be trans and become LGBT, and kids should make that decision on their own. So if that book is teaching them about, transitioning or becoming a drag queen, that's inappropriate.
It's
and that's
the rainbow fish.
Yes, but I haven't read the book. I can't see what the book is. So based on that one picture, does that book contain subtle messaging that's trying to tell kids to change their gender when they shouldn't be thinking about things like that? And, in Florida, they've obviously banned books in the classroom that teach gender ideology. And there's a lot of books, kids' books. There's a book called The Gay ABCs, and that pushes gender ideology for 2-year-olds.
Literally everyone read The Rainbow Fish when they were young from my generation. It came out in 1992. So this is what I mean about the median voter. The ideology of Republicans here is so insane that it actually implicates everything. Literally everything, all the time, everywhere. It is a holistic attack on all culture, media, and communication. They're selectively applying it, but broadly applied, like inconsistent language. It hits everything.